I stood there, under the stage lights, when my microphone cut out mid-sentence, and then they played my secret video for hundreds of guests. But they didn't know one thing. The NDA I signed, it had a clause they overlooked. And that very clause cost them $6 million. A $10,000 per ticket gala. A meticulously orchestrated humiliation. But the price they paid, much, much higher. My name is Morgan Reeves, and until 3 months ago, I was the face of Echo Vista Agency, one of Austin's most prestigious advertising firms. At 37, I'd built a reputation as the go-to brand strategist and event host for high-profile campaigns. CEOs requested me by name. Luxury brands flew me coast to coast. I had a gift for reading a room, for knowing exactly what to say to make million-dollar deals feel like friendly conversations over champagne. Echo Vista wasn't just my employer, it was my stage. For 8 years, I'd transformed corporate launches into cultural moments, turning stiff boardroom presentations into experiences people actually remembered. My colleagues called me the voice, not just because I hosted events, but because I had a way of speaking truth that clients needed to hear, even when they didn't want to. That directness? It made me invaluable to clients but dangerous to insecure executives. 2 months before everything imploded, I signed an NDA with Solara and Finch, a media conglomerate worth more in annual revenue than most small countries' GDP. They were launching a revolutionary streaming platform targeting the luxury market. Think Netflix meets private jet catalogs. The campaign budget, $6 million. The stakes? Their entire digital transformation. I should have seen the red flags during our first meeting. While their CEO praised my authentic approach, his C-suite executives exchanged glances I'd learned to recognize, the kind that said, "She's useful now, but she won't last." Still, I believed in the project. More importantly, I believed in my ability to navigate corporate politics. I was wrong. The Austin conference room where we signed the papers smelled like leather and ambition. 15 pages of legal language, most of it standard. I'd signed dozens of NDAs before, but this one had something I'd never seen. A mutual defamation clause buried in subsection 7.3.2. Any public act of deliberate defamation by either party would trigger immediate contract nullification, with penalties falling on the violating party. Just protecting both our interests, their legal counsel had said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I signed. Of course, I signed. I was Morgan Reeves. I didn't defame people. I elevated brands. I built reputations. I was the woman companies trusted with their most important moments. 3 weeks into the project, I'd already developed the central campaign concept, luxury unscripted. It would revolutionize how high-net-worth individuals consumed content. My strategy deck was brilliant, everyone said so. Even Mark Halden, their creative director who usually looked at me like I was gum on his Italian leather shoes, had nodded approvingly. That should have been my second warning. The unraveling began during a Tuesday morning strategy session in Solara and Finch's glass tower overlooking Lake Austin. I'd just finished presenting the finalized campaign roadmap when Mark Halden cleared his throat. That theatrical sound he made before delivering what he thought was devastating insight. "Brilliant work, Morgan," he said, shuffling papers with practiced nonchalance. "We'll be making some minor adjustments, of course. Kayla Monroe will be taking point on the creative execution from here." Kayla Monroe, 26 years old, fresh from her third attempt at an MBA. And, coincidentally, the CEO's niece. She'd been shadowing our meetings, taking notes in a pink leather journal, asking questions that revealed she didn't understand the difference between brand equity and brand awareness. "I'm sorry," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the fire building in my chest. "Taking point on my strategy?" "Our strategy," Mark corrected, his smile sharp as broken glass. "Solara and Finch's strategy. You've done wonderful preliminary work, but we need someone internal to shepherd this through." I looked around the conference table, 8 faces, all avoiding my eyes except for James, the technical assistant, who seemed to shrink into his chair. The CFO studied her manicure. The CMO checked his phone. They'd orchestrated this before I'd even walked in. The entire luxury unscripted concept is my intellectual property, I stated, my hands flat on the table. Every element, from the content curation algorithm to the influencer partnership framework, I created that. Actually, the legal counsel interjected, sliding a document across the mahogany table. According to Section 4.2 of your contract, all work product developed during the engagement period belongs to Solara and Finch. You've been compensated appropriately. Compensated, as if my retainer fee could buy back my ideas, my vision, my 3 weeks of 18-hour days building something revolutionary. I scanned the faces again. Kayla had the decency to look uncomfortable, twirling a strand of her highlighted hair. This is theft, I said, standing slowly. You're stealing my work and handing it to someone who asked last week what ROI stands for. That's enough. Mark's voice dropped to a warning tone. Need I remind you of your NDA? Any disparagement of Solara and Finch or its employees? Is this being recorded? I asked, noting the blinking light on the conference phone. Standard protocol, someone muttered. I laughed, sharp, bitter. Of course it is. You want to keep me as your dancing monkey for the launch events while you hand my brain to nepotism Barbie. And if I object, you'll threaten me with legal action. No one's threatening anyone. The CEO finally spoke, his voice oil-smooth. We value your contributions. Morgan, you'll still be our lead presenter for all major events. The face of the campaign. Isn't that what you do best? The condescension dripped like honey. The face, not the brain, not the strategist, the pretty mouthpiece who could sell their stolen ideas to the world. I need to review this with my attorney, I said, gathering my materials. There's nothing to review. Mark leaned back in his chair. Continue your contracted duties or face the consequences outlined in sections 8 through 11. Your choice. The next 3 weeks were a masterclass in corporate humiliation. Every meeting, Kayla presented my ideas as her own while I sat silent, bound by legal threats. She mispronounced algorithmic targeting. She confused engagement rates with click-through rates. She actually suggested we make the platform more pink to appeal to female luxury consumers. I documented everything, every butchered presentation, every fundamental misunderstanding of the strategy. Not out of spite, okay, maybe a little spite, but because I knew this house of cards would collapse and I wouldn't be the one under the rubble. James, the technical assistant, became my unlikely ally. During a coffee break, he slipped me a USB drive. The unedited recordings from the meetings, he whispered, including some conversations you weren't supposed to hear. I raised an eyebrow. They discussed the plan before you signed the contract, he continued. Always intended to sideline you after you delivered the strategy. Mark called it catching and killing your influence in the industry. Why are you telling me this? He shrugged. Because talent should matter more than last names. And because watching Kayla explain your ideas is like watching someone play Mozart with oven mitts. I pocketed the drive. I wouldn't use it, yet. But knowing it existed felt like carrying a loaded weapon while walking through enemy territory. They wanted me silent and compliant, grateful for whatever scraps they threw. They had no idea who they were dealing with. Morgan Reeves didn't just build brands. Sometimes, she destroyed them. The Ritz-Carlton in New Orleans gleamed like a jewel against the humid southern night. October 15th. Launch night for Luxury Unscripted. $10,000 per ticket, and all 300 seats sold out. Tech moguls, fashion icons, old money aristocrats. Everyone who mattered in the luxury space had gathered to witness Solara and Finch's digital revolution. I stood backstage, adjusting the emerald green Versace dress I'd chosen specifically for this moment. My hands were steady. 3 weeks of silence, of watching Kayla stumble through my ideas, of biting my tongue until it bled. It all led to this night. 5 minutes. Morgan! The stage manager called out. Mark Halden appeared beside me, his cologne aggressive in the confined space. Remember, he said, straightening his tie, stick to the script, Kayla's script. Any deviation will violate my NDA. I finished. Yes, Mark, you've made that abundantly clear. He studied me with those calculating eyes. You look calm for someone whose career hangs by a thread. I'm a professional, I replied. I know exactly what I'm going to do out there. What I didn't tell him was that I'd discovered something interesting during my final review of tonight's presentation. The teleprompter script they'd given me. It was riddled with errors, technical misstatements that would make me look incompetent to this sophisticated audience. Kayla's work, no doubt, edited by people who didn't understand the technology they were selling. The lights dimmed. My cue. I walked onto the stage, shoulders back, smile radiant. The audience applauded. They knew me, trusted me. For 8 years, I'd been the voice they associated with innovation. Good evening, visionaries, I began, my voice carrying perfectly through the state-of-the-art sound system. Tonight, we're not just launching a platform, we're redefining how luxury meets technology. The first 10 minutes went flawlessly. I delivered their script with my signature polish, watching Mark nod approvingly from the wings. Then, as I transitioned into the technical demonstration, I saw the trap they'd set. The teleprompter showed my next line. Our AI uses a simple binary algorithm to match content with viewer preferences. Simple, binary. 2 words that would instantly signal to this tech-savvy audience that I didn't understand the complex machine learning system I'd actually designed. I took a breath, ready to navigate around their sabotage. The microphone cut out. Not a technical failure. The sound system was too sophisticated for that. A deliberate kill switch. I tapped the mic, playing confused for the audience. Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. Then the lights changed. The stage went dark except for a single harsh spotlight on me. And behind me, the massive LED screen flickered to life. My face appeared, grainy conference room footage. But the audio... God. The audio had been manipulated with surgical precision. This is theft, my recorded voice shrieked, pitched up to sound hysterical. The video showed me standing, but they'd edited out everyone else's faces, making me appear unhinged, screaming at empty chairs. You're all incompetent. I'm the only one who understands this. They'd spliced together moments from different meetings, removed context, amplified emotions. To the audience, I looked like a diva having a breakdown over not getting credit. I deserve everything. This is my idea. Mine! The audience shifted uncomfortably. Whispers started. Phone cameras emerged from designer clutches. I stood frozen in that harsh spotlight, watching my professional reputation shatter in real time. The video continued for 2 excruciating minutes. They'd even added a clip of me saying, "Nepotism Barbie," without showing it was about someone who'd asked what ROI meant. Out of context, I looked petty, jealous, unstable. When it finally ended, Mark's voice boomed over the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for this unexpected transparency. At Solara and Finch, we believe in accountability. While Ms. Reeves contributed to our early discussions, her inability to work collaboratively required us to make changes. Kayla Monroe, our brilliant creative director, will now present the actual strategy behind Luxury Unscripted. Kayla walked out, her steps uncertain in 2 high heels. The audience applauded politely, but I caught the glances. Pity for her, disgust for me. I remained frozen in that spotlight, my mic still dead, as she began butchering the presentation I'd written. So, luxury content is about making rich people feel special. She started. I walked off stage, not rushed, not dramatic, just turned and walked into the wings where James stood, his face pale with shock. Did you know? I asked quietly. He shook his head. The video team worked in isolation, Mark's private project. Behind us, Kayla was explaining that algorithms are basically math recipes. I could hear the audience's confusion turning to secondhand embarrassment. My phone buzzed. 17 messages already. My professional contacts, seeing the social media posts starting to circulate. What happened? Are you okay? Was that real? One from my agency's CEO. We need to discuss your future with EcoVista immediately. I looked at James. Did you get the video file of what just happened? He nodded slowly. Everything's recorded, but Morgan, your NDA. My NDA, I said, finally smiling, has some very interesting clauses about public defamation. The 3-hour drive from New Orleans to my sister's ranch outside Tulsa passed in a blur of highway lights and racing thoughts. By the time I reached Sarah's doorstep at 3 a.m., the video had garnered 47,000 views across various platforms. Morgan meltdown was trending. Sarah opened the door before I could knock, wrapping me in a hug that smelled like lavender and fresh bread. I saw, she said simply. Come in. For 2 days, I didn't look at my phone. I helped Sarah with her horses, fixed fence posts, and tried to forget that my career was cremating itself in real time on social media. EcoVista had sent a formal termination letter via email, conduct detrimental to the agency's reputation. 8 years reduced to a PDF. On the third night, over bourbon on the porch, Sarah asked, "What's your plan?" "I don't have one," I admitted. "Bullshit," she said. "Morgan Reeves always has a plan. Even when we were kids, you'd map out revenge scenarios for whoever stole your lunch money." She was right. I'd been running on autopilot, but my mind had been working, processing, analyzing. "I need to review my NDA. The thing that's keeping you from defending yourself?" "The thing that might save me," I corrected. I spent the next week in Sarah's guest room, surrounded by legal documents and powered by her endless coffee supply. The NDA was 15 pages of dense legalese, but I read it like my life depended on it, because it did. Most of it was standard. Non-disclosure of proprietary information, non-compete clauses, penalties for breach. But Section 7.3.2 kept drawing my attention. The Mutual Defamation Clause. In the event that either party engages in public defamation with deliberate intent to damage the other party's reputation, the defamed party may invoke immediate contract nullification. I read it again and again. Public defamation. Deliberate intent. The video they'd played wasn't just embarrassing, it was defamatory. They'd edited it to portray me as unstable, incompetent, and unprofessional. They'd broadcast it to an audience of industry leaders with the explicit intention of destroying my reputation. But I needed proof of deliberate intent. That's when I remembered James's USB drive, still in my laptop bag. I'd grabbed it reflexively during my escape from the Ritz-Carlton. With shaking hands, I plugged it in. 15 audio files, meeting recordings. Most were standard discussions, but file number 12 made me stop breathing. Mark's voice. "The beauty is, she can't retaliate. The NDA has her trapped." The CEO. "And the video compilation? Already in production. We'll play it right after her mic fails. Make her look hysterical, unstable. Who's going to hire a brand strategist who melts down over credit?" Kayla's nervous laugh. "Isn't that cruel?" Mark. "It's business. She's too influential in this industry. After New Orleans, she'll be radioactive. No one will touch her. And we'll own the luxury streaming space without her shadow." "The lawyers approved this," someone asked. "The defamation clause works both ways, theoretically." The legal counsel's voice. "But who's going to prove intent?" "It's just an unfortunate technical glitch that happened to reveal her true character." They all laughed. I played it 3 more times, then called the only lawyer I trusted, my law school roommate, Patricia Chen, now a partner at a boutique firm in Dallas. "Morgan, this is gold," she said after reviewing everything. "They didn't just defame you, they documented their intent to defame you. And that mutual clause means they breached the contract." I finished. "Which means I'm no longer bound by the NDA, and they're liable for damages." "More than that." Patricia's voice carried the excitement of a lawyer who'd found a smoking gun. "Every partnership deal tied to this campaign could be affected. If Solara and Finch engaged in deliberate defamation, their partners might have grounds to withdraw." I sat back in Sarah's creaky desk chair, staring at the Texas sunset through the window. For the first time since New Orleans, I smiled. They'd orchestrated my humiliation perfectly. Except for one detail. They'd assumed I'd crawl away in shame, too broken to fight back. They'd assumed the NDA would keep me silent even as they destroyed me. They'd assumed wrong. Patricia, I said, I want to invoke Section 7.3.2. But first, I have a video to make. Morgan, be careful. If you're wrong about this. I'm not wrong, I interrupted. They wanted to kill my influence. They're about to learn that some things don't stay dead. I closed my laptop and walked out to find Sarah. She was in the stable, brushing her Arabian mare. I need to borrow your camera, I said. The good one. She looked up, saw something in my face, and grinned. The Morgan I know is back. Oh, I'm back, I said. And they're going to wish I'd stayed gone. The video took me 3 hours to perfect. No fancy editing, no production team, just me, Sarah's camera, and the truth. I sat in her sunlit kitchen, wearing a simple white shirt, my hair pulled back, no power suit, no stage makeup, just Morgan Reeves, stripped of pretense. 3 weeks ago, I was humiliated at a $10,000 per ticket event. I began, my voice steady. A video of me was played, edited, manipulated, designed to destroy my reputation. I'm not here to name companies or violate any legal agreements. I'm here to talk about what happens when talent threatens power. I didn't mention Solara and Finch. Didn't need to. Anyone in the industry would connect the dots. I've been in brand strategy for 15 years. I've launched campaigns worth millions, elevated companies from obscurity to prominence. But I made one mistake. I believed that excellence was enough, that if you work hard, create brilliance, your contributions will be valued. I paused, letting the morning light catch my face. No filters, no hiding. What I learned is that sometimes, your ideas are worth more than you are. Sometimes, the strategy to destroy you is planned before you even sign the contract. And sometimes, they document their intentions so thoroughly that their own arrogance becomes their downfall. I held up a single piece of paper, not the actual recording transcript, just a blank sheet. The implication was enough. I won't play their edited clips. I won't stoop to their level. But I will say this. When someone orchestrates your public humiliation, when they manipulate footage to make you seem unstable, when they steal your work and then destroy you for objecting, that's not business. That's targeted destruction. My voice dropped, carrying 15 years of controlled fury. To every young strategist, every creative, every professional who's been told their ideas matter less than their silence, document everything, read every clause, and remember, mutual protection clauses work both ways. I leaned forward slightly, looking directly into the camera. They wanted me radioactive, untouchable. They succeeded. But radiation has a funny quality. It leaves traces everywhere it goes. And some of us? We know how to follow those traces back to the source. I ended with silence. No call to action, no dramatic flourish. Just 10 seconds of me looking into the camera, letting the weight of unspoken truth fill the space. The video went live on my verified LinkedIn at 9 a.m. EST on a Tuesday, peak professional engagement time. I'd built my following over years of thought leadership. 127,000 connections across the industry. Within an hour, 5,000 views, 500 shares. By lunch, 45,000 views, 3,000 shares. And hundreds of comments from industry professionals expressing shock, support, and most importantly, recognition. They'd seen this pattern before. The first crack appeared at 2:47 p.m. James texted, "Emergency board meeting called. Mark is losing his mind. Legal is in full panic mode." At 3:15 p.m., an email from Solara and Finch's legal team. "Ms. Reeves, your recent social media activity appears to reference confidential matters. We remind you of your binding NDA." Patricia had prepared me for this. I forwarded it to her, and she responded within minutes with our prepared statement. Per Section 7.3.2 of the referenced agreement, Solara and Finch materially breached the mutual defamation clause through their public display of manipulated content on October 15th. Documentation of deliberate intent is available. The NDA is nullified by your client's actions. We are prepared to pursue full remedies. She attached a single audio clip, just Mark saying, "Make her look hysterical, unstable. Nothing more needed." The next 12 hours were a masterclass in corporate panic. 4:30 p.m. 3 of Solara and Finch's board members reached out to my LinkedIn. I didn't respond. 6 p.m. A PR crisis firm started following my accounts. Lexington Wade. The ones you hire when everything's on fire. 8 p.m. Mutual protection clause started trending as other professionals shared their stories. But the real victory came at 11:47 p.m., buried in a Google alert. A tech blog had picked up the story. Sources inside Solara and Finch confirm emergency meetings as video controversy threatens major partnerships. The radiation was spreading. Wednesday morning brought a new development. Kayla Monroe had posted her own video, clearly scripted by lawyers, reading from cards, apologizing for any misunderstandings, and praising my early contributions to the campaign. Too late. The comments eviscerated her. Industry professionals who'd attended the launch shared their first-hand accounts of her disastrous presentation. "Algorithms are basically math recipes" became an instant meme. By Wednesday afternoon, my video had 300,000 views. Major marketing publications wanted statements. I gave none. Silence, I'd learned, was sometimes louder than words. Patricia called that evening. They want to settle. Quietly. They're hemorrhaging partners. How many? North Shore Media pulled out this morning. 2 others are reviewing their contracts. The board is apoplectic. I stood on Sarah's porch, watching her horses graze in the setting sun. $6 million. That's what their campaign was worth. That's what they'd stolen from me. "Tell them I'll see them in court," I said. Public trial, full discovery, every email, every recording, every edited frame of that video. "Morgan, they'll fight." "No," I interrupted. "They won't. Because fighting means admitting what they did. And that admission will cost them more than $6 million. I was right. They couldn't afford the exposure. But I could. The dominoes fell faster than I'd anticipated. By Thursday morning, Patricia called with news that made me spill coffee across Sarah's kitchen table. "North Shore Media didn't just pull out," she said, breathless with excitement. "They're demanding a full audit of Solara and Finch's business practices. Apparently, your video made them question everything. North Shore wasn't just any partner. They controlled 40% of the funding for Luxury Unscripted. Without them, the entire platform would collapse before it even launched." "There's more," Patricia continued. "Someone leaked internal emails to TechCrunch, the ones where Mark explicitly discusses neutralizing your influence. Morgan, they're calling it Defamation Gate." I walked outside, needing air. The Texas morning was crisp, clear, nothing like the humid pressure of that New Orleans night. My phone buzzed constantly now. Reporters, former colleagues, even competitors reaching out with support and similar stories. But it was a text from James that stopped me cold. "Kayla just got suspended. Board found out she knew about the video plan. Security is packing up her office right now." I felt a flicker of sympathy for her. Young, naive, thrust into a role she wasn't ready for because of her last name. Then I remembered her laughing in that recorded meeting while they planned my destruction. The sympathy died. By noon, the story had evolved beyond my control. Defamation Gate was trending nationally. Business Insider published a deep dive. How a luxury campaign became a case study in corporate sabotage. They'd found 3 other professionals who'd experienced similar technical difficulties at Solara and Finch events. Patricia called again. "They're desperate. The board wants this to disappear. They're offering to void the NDA, pay your full consultation fee, plus damages." "How much in damages?" $2 million. I laughed. "Their campaign is worth $6 million. They tried to destroy my career. $2 million is insulting." "What do you want?" I thought about Mark's smug face, about the CEO's oily condescension, about 300 people watching my professional execution as entertainment. I want the truth to cost them everything it was supposed to cost me. Friday brought the earthquake. North Shore Media didn't just pull funding, they issued a public statement. Recent revelations about Solara and Finch's business practices are incompatible with our values. Effective immediately. We're terminating all partnerships and pursuing legal remedies for potential fraud. The word fraud changed everything. Other partners scrambled to distance themselves. Stock analysts downgraded Solara and Finch from buy to sell. In 48 hours, they'd lost more than money. They'd lost credibility. Mark Halden was terminated Friday afternoon. His goodbye email leaked within minutes. I've been made a scapegoat for standard business practices. No one bought it. Saturday morning, as I helped Sarah feed her horses, Patricia called with the final numbers. The campaign is dead, she said. Total losses are estimated at $6.2 million, the original budget plus penalty clauses with partners. 3 executives fired. Kayla Monroe officially terminated. The CEO is facing a no-confidence vote Monday. And their offer? Full NDA nullification, public apology, and $5 million in damages. Morgan, it's more than fair. No public apology, I interrupted. I don't want their scripted remorse. I want the $5 million and a written admission of defamation for my records. No publicity around the settlement. You don't want them to publicly clear your name. I smiled, watching the sunrise paint the ranch in gold. My name is already clear. Everyone who matters knows what they did. A forced apology means nothing. But that admission? That's protection for the future. The settlement was signed Monday morning. $5 million, not quite the 6 they'd cost themselves, but enough. The written admission was comprehensive, detailing the video manipulation, the deliberate defamation, the breach of contract. I donated $1 million to a new nonprofit, the Professional Integrity Fund, providing legal support for professionals facing corporate retaliation. The rest went into launching my own consultancy. No more agencies, no more being someone else's voice. The CEO survived his no-confidence vote by 2 votes. He'd cling to power, but weakened, watched, distrusted. Solara and Finch would survive. But as a cautionary tale, not an industry leader. Tuesday morning, I got a call from an unknown number. Ms. Reeves, this is Jonathan Wade from North Shore Media. We're launching our own luxury platform. We need someone with uncompromising vision and, frankly, the spine to stand up to us if we're wrong. Interested? I don't do NDAs anymore, I said. Fair warning. He laughed. After last week, neither do we. Can we meet Thursday? I agreed. The world was full of opportunities for someone who refused to be silenced. Kayla Monroe reached out that week, a long, rambling email about learning experiences and second chances. I didn't respond. Some bridges are meant to stay burned. The industry had learned something valuable. When you try to bury someone who knows their worth, you better make sure they don't know their rights. $6 million. That's what their cruelty cost them. My dignity, priceless, and very much intact. 6 months later, I stood on another stage, in another ballroom, facing another crowd of industry elite. But this time, everything was different. The venue was the St. Regis in San Francisco. The event was Lumen Strategy's annual Innovation Summit. The microphone in my hand was mine. The words I spoke were mine. And the respect in the audience's eyes was earned through fire. Innovation, I began, my voice carrying the confidence of someone who'd been tested and survived, isn't just about new ideas. It's about having the courage to protect those ideas and the wisdom to know when burning bridges lights the way forward. The audience, tech founders, venture capitalists, creative directors, leaned in. They knew my story. Most of them had followed Defamation Gate in real time. Some had reached out with their own tales of corporate betrayal. I'd become more than a brand strategist. I'd become a symbol of professional integrity. My consultancy, Reeves Strategic, had launched with 3 clients and a reputation for brutal honesty. Now, 6 months later, we had 12 major accounts and a waiting list. Turns out, companies valued someone who couldn't be bought, silenced, or scared. 6 months ago, I continued, I learned that NDAs can be weapons or shields, depending on who reads them carefully. I learned that when someone tries to bury you professionally, they often end up digging their own grave. And I learned that sometimes, the best revenge isn't what you do, it's what you refuse to do. I paused, scanning the room. In the third row, I spotted a familiar face, James, the technical assistant who'd slipped me that USB drive. He now worked for a startup I'd helped launch. He nodded, a small smile of shared understanding. I could have taken their public apology, I said. I could have demanded they grovel, made sure everyone knew every dirty detail. But here's what they never understood about me. I don't need their validation. I never did. The speech was supposed to be about market disruption, but everyone knew the subtext. How disruption sometimes means refusing to play by rules designed to silence you. They paid $5 million to learn what I already knew. Integrity isn't just a business virtue, it's a business strategy. When you can't be bought, you become invaluable. When you can't be silenced, you become powerful. When you document everything, I smiled, you become dangerous. After the talk, Jonathan Wade from North Shore Media approached. We'd been working together for 5 months, building something revolutionary. And this time, my name was on every document, every strategy, every innovation. Solara and Finch announced they're shuttering the luxury streaming division, he said quietly. Complete write-off. Mark Halden is apparently selling real estate in Phoenix now. I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not vindication, just nothing. They were history. I was the future. That evening, back in my hotel room, I finally responded to one persistent email. Marissa Thompson, a young strategist from Dallas, had written 8 times. Her story echoed mine, brilliant ideas, stolen credit, legal threats keeping her silent. I don't know what to do, she'd written. They have me trapped. I typed back, read your contract, every word, every clause. Protection clauses work both ways. Document everything, and remember, they can steal your ideas, but they can't steal your ability to create new ones. That terrifies them. Use it. I attached Patricia's contact information and a link to the Professional Integrity Fund, another warrior in the making. My phone buzzed. Sarah texting a photo from her ranch. She'd named her new foal Defiance in my honor. I laughed, the sound echoing in my empty hotel room. From corporate humiliation to equine inspiration, life takes strange turns. The next morning, I sat in Lumen Strategies' boardroom, leading a workshop on ethical innovation in the digital age. 20 executives, all taking notes as I explained how transparency wasn't a weakness, but a weapon, how integrity wasn't naive, but strategic. 3 of them mentioned they'd left positions at Solara and Finch in the past year. The exodus was real. The old model says protect yourself with silence, I explained. The new model says protect yourself with truth. Document, verify, and never sign away your right to defend yourself. As I packed up after the session, my phone showed a news alert. Solara and Finch CEO announces early retirement amid continued fallout from defamation scandal. I deleted it without reading. They were yesterday's news. I had empires to build. That night, standing on my balcony overlooking the San Francisco Bay, I thought about that moment in New Orleans. The spotlight, the humiliation, the certainty that my career was over. They'd aimed to destroy Morgan Reeves, the brand strategist. Instead, they'd created Morgan Reeves, the unstoppable force. This time, they didn't get to choose my silence. This time, I chose my voice, and it was louder than they'd ever imagined. Thank you so much for listening to this story of corporate revenge and redemption. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your own thoughts or experiences with workplace injustice. Your voice matters too.